chapter 1, verses 19 through 28. Now this was John's testimony when the Jews of Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely, "I am not the Christ." They asked him, "Then who are you? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" He said, "No." Finally they said, "Who are you? Give to us an answer to take back to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, "I am the voice of one calling in the desert, make straight the way for the Lord." Now some Pharisees who had been sent questioned him, "Why then do you baptize if you are not the Christ, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" "I baptize with water," John replied, "but among you stands one who you do not yet know. He is the one who comes after me, the thongs of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie." This all happened in Bethany, on the other side of the Jordan, where John was baptizing. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Why are you here? Why do you say the things you say? Why do you do the things you do? Are you somebody important? Tell me, what do you have to say about yourself? These are the questions that the Pharisees confronted John with while he was preaching and baptizing in Bethany. And they are good questions. Good questions to consider, not just for John, but for every Christian. You see, when we look at Christians, when the world looks at Christians, these are the very questions they ask of us. In his book, When Christians Get It Wrong, Adam Hamilton cites a study which found that in non-Christian young adults, 87% of felt Christians were judgmental. 85% believed Christians were hypocritical. 70% thought Christians were insensitive. Again, I have to ask, what do you say about yourself? Because what we have been saying, it's not working. One of the problems that Hamilton points to in his book is motives. He writes that Jesus warned the disciples about the dangers of praying, of fasting, of helping out the poor. Hear that again. Jesus warned the disciples about the dangers of praying, fasting, and helping out the poor. Why? Why would Jesus warn against doing what seems to be such good things? Because he understood the dangers. He knew that when people do good things, they begin to seek accolades. They begin to seek recognition or reward. You see, whatever we do, whether it's working at the food pantry or teaching Sunday school or taking food out to the hungry or giving to the poor or playing in the praise band or singing in the choir, whatever we do, if we do it long enough, we're going to be tempted to expect some sort of recognition, expect some praise for our actions. We have thoughts like, I want to be viewed as a good Christian, so I had better, you fill in the blank. Or, if I don't volunteer, they'll think I'm a bad person. Our culture feeds into this. They give us the iPod, iPad, MySpace, have it your way attitude. And this chips away at the humility that we strive for. We become driven to insert ourselves at the front of the line, to be noticed, to be seen, to be louder. There's also a danger that we become like the Pharisees, in seeing good works as obligations or rules. A little red flag should go up in your heart when you begin to see these acts of kindness as nothing more than a function of being a Christian, a sort of quid pro quo or timeshare where our service is expected in return for salvation. You know, we go through the motions like robots, void of any attachment or real involvement. We chalk it up as something that God simply expects of us, our duty. And we certainly don't want to disappoint God, now do we? The thing is this, when we act because of these wrong motives. The world sees it. You may not think they do, but they do. Think about this. Have you ever been in the checkout line where the cashier says all the right things? How are you today, sir? Did you find everything you were looking for, ma'am? Thank you. Come again. The words are right. Yet the body language, the tone of voice, makes it absolutely clear that the person has no interest in what is going on. How does that make you feel? When the unchurched today are encountering Christians, that's what they're seeing. They're seeing Christians that seek the recognition, the accolades, the promotion, or they're simply going through the motions. And you know what? The world sees it for what it is. When I was a kid, I loved Saturday mornings. Cartoons. They don't have Saturday morning cartoons anymore, I don't think. But cartoons, cereal, no school. It was great. But you know, every so often, it felt like every week, but every so often, my sister and I would find a pile of old newspapers, 2 spray bottles that reeked of the pungent smell of vinegar, and 2 rolls of paper towels on the kitchen table. We knew what it meant. Mom wanted to wash the windows. We, of course, would protest. Look, Mom, the windows are fine. Look, I can see the Petrosky's van next door. There's the dog across the street, the one that just sits in the yard and does nothing. Look, I can see the dogwood and the holly bush outside the front door. The windows are fine, Mom. Sometimes we could even get my dad to kind of shrug in agreement when, we made this plea for mercy. It usually had no effect on my mother. We would spend the next hour, which is an eternity for a child on a Saturday morning, climbing step ladders, spraying, scrubbing, spraying again, scrubbing again, all under the watchful eye of my mother. And when we finished, we would all stand in the living room and look out the windows. My mom would beam and exclaim how clean the windows were and how much light was getting through. Unfortunately, to my sister and my dismay, we usually had to concede that she was right. The windows were, in fact, much cleaner. You see, John in our story today, he's the clean glass. He was questioned about his preaching and his baptizing, and he basically said, you know what? You know who I am? I'm nobody. And what I do and what I say, they have nothing to do with me at all. He said, I'm not looking for fame and fortune. My words and my actions, they're pointing you to someone that comes after me. And as I was looking at that passage, I found the Greek there. The Greek word for after is apiso. It can also be translated as behind. Christ was behind John. Christ was behind John's actions, behind John's words. And because John's motives were pure, because Christ was behind him, because he was the clean glass, the people could see Christ. What we need to do in this time of Advent, the beginning of the Christian year, we need to examine ourselves. We need to ensure that we're not that dirty glass. You see, our pride, our need for recognition, our sense of duty, slowly they all begin to cling to our glass. We don't see it because it's gradual, but it slowly clouds what others see when we encounter them. You see, when we are the clean glass, the light of Christ is able to shine through us completely. And those that we come in contact with, they see him. They see his love, not our motives. We are meant to be as invisible as a window pane or a camera lens. But when we're dirty glass, Christ's light doesn't shine as bright. And they can't see the genuine love behind our actions. Our own motives become smudges that prevent people from seeing clearly. How then do we clean our glass? a genuine love of all people. This is what I believe the unchurched aren't seeing when they go out into the world. They see the actions, they hear the words. They know who Jesus was, they know what he taught. And unfortunately, we don't live up to their expectations. Think about it. What attracted all those people to Christ during his earthly ministry? It was his love. His willingness to love the tax collector, the prostitute, the Gentile, the thief. I believe the world needs to see that kind of love. I believe that they are looking for it if we were only willing to show it to them. Are you willing to look at yourself? To clean your glass, to remove the personal motive, and show the world genuine love? In the final chapter of Adam Hamilton's book, appropriately titled, When Christians Get It Right, Hamilton writes, Christ's disciples are to love one another, to love their neighbors, to love those in need, and even love their enemies. When Christians get it right, they practice sacrificial love. And that's a powerful witness. It has the capacity to change the world. I agree with Adam Hamilton here. But only if that love is a love that looks past our own biases, that looks beyond social or political issues, that looks beyond individual beliefs of religion. Only if that love says, at this moment, all I really care about is what's important to you, what you need, because you were created in God's image. When we, brothers and sisters, act with that kind of love in our heart, the glass can't be dirty. The light of Christ will shine through. The question is, the real question, what are your motives going to say about you? Amen.